PharmaPhobic is powered by Achieve the Lifestyle, a company dedicated to helping you empower your health, redefine your lifestyle, and all for the health of it. You're listening to PharmaPhobic, where we challenge the state of health in America. I'm Janie, a physician assistant, and I've seen how healthcare keeps people dependent instead of truly healthy.
And I'm Dan, a veteran turned fitness pro here to uncover the truth and explore simple and sustainable health solutions. From Big Pharma to Big Food, we're exposing the conflicts of interest keeping us sick and finding better ways to take back our health.
No fluff, no gimmicks, just real talk, real solutions, and a little bit of fun along the way. Hi, and welcome to the PharmaPhobic podcast. I'm Janie.
And I'm Dan.
Yeah, and we're a married couple who got together and decided to start a company called Achieve the Lifestyle. And why did we do that, Dan?
Basically, because we believe independently, you had this opinion and belief, and I had it before as well, that the current health situation of this country is highly, highly messed up, to put it mildly.
Right. And so to give a little bit of a background, I am a physician assistant. I have been for over 10 years, have always worked in primary care. And the more I have worked in my career and the additional education that I have acquired, the more I see the things that we're missing within the health system of the U.S.
My background, I am a fitness professional of going on 10 years. Yeah, this is year 10, actually, of duking it out in the fitness pro trenches. I am a strength coach. I'm a personal trainer, now turning health coach. No, personal trainer and strength coach are not the same thing. Okay. So it just depends on what day you ask me.
Yeah. And really this started when we moved in together. We would just come home over the dinner table and talk about, struggles my patients were having, struggles your clients were having, and realizing there was a lot of overlap.
Yep. I see it as like an intersection, really. When you think about healthcare and then you think about the fitness industry, they really intersect. And it's a pretty big intersection where it feels more like we should be working hand in hand versus, hey, you do your thing and that's your lane and I do my thing and this is my lane type of thing. And when you put it all together, then you come up with something like Achieve the Lifestyle.
Yeah.
We're the literal marriage of health and fitness.
Right. And then, I love can't think of the word right now, but anyway, I love coming up with names and things that kind of rhyme or sound the same. So alliterations. Thank you. I was going to say it. I'm like, no, that's wrong. But I love coming up with alliterations, and we were thinking of something that we could say that speaks to a lot of the issues that we see with the U.S. population being over-reliant on pharmaceutical medications, and we came up with PharmaPhobic.
Yeah, I see, the whole thing, the over-reliance, the over-prescription, the over-marketing of pharmaceuticals as the solution to the current health situation in the country. I think it needs to be addressed, and every time somebody tries to talk about it, it becomes a little bit controversial, and I'm here to challenge that. I think we should definitely open our minds and point out the things that are a problem, because we have more pharmaceuticals than ever. We have more access to pharmaceutical solutions than ever, yet we are the sickest we have ever been as a country. And the trend isn't getting any better. Mm-hmm. It's only getting worse. Every year, more people get sick. More people die of, lifestyle-related illnesses. And it's not because of lack of pharmaceuticals. We got them. So what are we not doing? What is not getting paid attention to? Because we keep looking to the pharmaceutical interventions as a solution. What are we missing? And that's the conversation that I would like us all to have in this show.
Right. And we wanted to do it in a podcast format because it's not as simple, it's this way because, end of story. There's so many layers involved. There's so many ways to approach it. And unfortunately, a lot of people have feelings about it, so we need to explain things.
Yeah, it's a complex issue. I think the solutions are actually simple. When you have a complex problem, and this might be my military mindset, you have a complex problem, you inject simple solutions into it so that you can actually do the stuff that is required to solve the complex problem.
Right.
You do not want to inject more complexity into a problem and make your solutions complex, therefore injecting more complexity into a complex issue. That's a lot of use of the word complex.
You said that a lot.
I think you guys get my point. Yep.
And so why don't you say what the definition of pharmaphobic is to us?
So we wrote it out as the official meaning of the word pharmaphobic is a rebellious commitment to owning your health before allowing Big Pharma to profit off your illness.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do we mean by that? First of all, I want to underline the word rebellious. Why? Because if you live a certain way this day and age, if you choose to eat a certain way, if you choose to put your health at the top of your priority list, you are living in a counterculture of sorts. You are not following the norm. You're going against the grain in some way, shape, or form. So we are celebrating the fact that as it stands right now, and Janie and I hope to be part of the people that change that construct. As it stands right now, if you like to work out and you make it a priority, if you like to eat freaking organic food from regenerative farms and, really look at the ingredients that you're in your food and you reject certain ingredients in most foods and you don't want to partake in that.
If you don't consume alcohol by choice.
If you don't consume alcohol by choice,
yeah.
You go to sleep at 9 p.m., you try to avoid blue lights after you're doing all these things to like really take care of yourself, then you're living in contradiction to the norm and to the mainstream. So we want to celebrate that. Hey, we're rebels. For the health of it, we are rebels.
Yeah.
Then there's the fact that, the pharmaceutical companies, Big Pharma, have interjected themselves into every aspect of our lives. How? Turn on the television and watch TV for more than 2 minutes and tell me how many Big Pharma commercials you're going to see telling you how great life will be if you just take this other medication. Now, remember, those commercials last about a minute. 20 seconds, they're telling you how great your life is going to be. The other 40 seconds, they're reading you the list of side effects. But there's that.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to remember that there's a construct. We're basically acknowledging, and as we go through this show and we journey through this thing, there's a construct out there that is not necessarily built in favor of the health of the population, but it is built to prioritize corporate profits and greed, dare I say.
And I would even say that people are exposed to pharmaceutical interventions over lifestyle more so in their doctor's office, right?
I believe it.
Because, going through PA school, I can tell you how much I learned about diet, nutrition, exercise versus all the information I learned about drugs, which drugs to use, their common side effects, dosing, and it was a lot more on the drugs. And if you think about it, anytime you've been to a doctor's office, outside of how is your current diet, are you exercising regularly, eat less, exercise more, what education are most people given regarding lifestyle?
Nothing.
But if you have a backache, there's a med for that. If your blood sugar is a little bit high, there's a med for that. If you are sad, there's a med for that, and that information is readily available. Providers are educated on it more than they are so the lifestyle.
I think there's also the construct, if you start digging into how scientific research is conducted, to address some of these problems and how there seems to be a proclivity, I'm going to say, whether by design, wink, wink, or by coincidence, you'll find there's no such thing as coincidences. But where the scientific studies and the research is not only funded by the industry, the the purse strings on scientific research is controlled by the industry, and they tend to favor studies that are researching something to bring a new medication to market versus something with a lifestyle intervention. Does that make sense? So we're studying diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and we're studying how whatever, things that we can do to make it better. But the research is always going to favor, what can we sell? What medication can we bring to market? It'll never be like, this dietary intervention, this exercise intervention help these people with diabetes. Those studies get put way past the back of the line for funding, and some of them just don't see the light of day, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I thought you were going to go down the road where most of the studies are funded by pharmaceutical companies.
Oh, no doubt. That's what I'm saying. It's by coincidence. They're funded by pharmaceutical companies. And you see a lot of studies that get some convenient result, where like, hey, calories in, calories out, brought to you by Coca-Cola, that's a problem. So we want to address all this stuff as we go down this journey of PharmaPhobic. And we want to highlight, like, we're not just complainers, we're solution minded. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely, and Janie will tell you this because she hates when I do it. If she comes to me with a problem, I immediately go into solution mode.
But sometimes you just want your husband to listen.
Yeah,
that's all you need.
I get it, but you have to tell me because my default setting is solution. How do we get to a solution? And we are very much bringing that spirit to this podcast and to whatever we address when it comes to the health and long-term health and longevity of people that we work with.
Right. And I like to also approach this how I practice is it's not my job and it's not our job or our goal to tell you what to do, make up your mind for you. It's to help bring awareness to things.
That's a key word.
Yeah. If you're aware that, pharmaceutical companies are so entrenched in all aspects of your healthcare, does that change your mind of things? Now, if we live in America, so if you freely choose to be like, fine, that's great, I want this med, more power to you. But if you decide not to make that choice, then we're here to help you navigate how to be healthier, to avoid use of medications, to minimize the dose of medications, to maybe come off of them. And so that's really our goal.
Think two things that I want to highlight there. The word awareness, that's going to resound. That's going to be a theme throughout these discussions that we're going to have on here. Because awareness, remember this, I didn't come up with this. Awareness precedes change. How can you change anything if you're not aware of the circumstances surrounding your issue and aware of possible solutions? Okay. Now, a lot of people out there in the mainstream, they default to whatever the doctor said because they are not aware that they have options. Mm-hmm. Make sense? So we want to definitely create awareness around options. And one of the options that you have is actually taking charge of your health, realizing that it's nobody else's responsibility. It's your own responsibility. Mm-hmm. Okay. Nobody's going to take care of you better than you take care of yourself. And empowering yourself with knowledge and information and being curious and, considering things like, weighing and measuring and be like, yeah, this could work. This could not work. Maybe I should try that. That sort of spirit will empower you to be able to take charge of your own health. And hopefully that leads you to kind of redefining your lifestyle so that health becomes a priority. I firmly believe, and I dare anybody to argue with me on this point, that health is the most valuable thing that any of us will ever own. Mm-hmm. I don't care if you have Elon Musk money. If you are an unhealthy person, you will not be a happy person because you're fighting disease. You're going to be dealing with that health. I had a mentor of mine told me a couple months ago, actually, he made this expression and it really resonated with me. It's the healthy person has many wishes, but the unhealthy person only has one wish. You can guess what that wish is: to be healthy.
Yeah.
Imagine yourself in a hospital, dealing with cancer or one of these unfortunate diseases that people don't ask for. And you could have all the money in the world, but at that time, all you're thinking about is dealing with this disease so that you can carry on with your life. Yeah. So we want to help people basically avoid that.
Right.
Okay. And the other point I wanted to make is that, hey, just because we're saying pharmaphobic doesn't mean that if you're on medication, we're saying,
yes,
screw you, or we're like giving you the middle finger. That's not what's happening here. We want to say, hey, it's a commitment. Okay. It's a rebellious commitment to say, hey, I'm on this medication now. I'm either going to figure out a way to improve my situation so that I can come off of it, or I'm going to figure out a way to improve my situation so that I can be on the lowest dose, or that I don't have to be on other medications in the future.
Right.
That is what we're saying. So
right.
just think about that for a second.
Yeah. This is not anti-medication. We're just having this conversation. Some medications are great. Antibiotics have saved lives. But if you're sick for one day, you don't need an antibiotic. Right. And so this is, like Dan said, to minimize use, maybe avoid use in some situations, and give yourself the chance to be more optimal to receive the benefits of that medication if you're on it. But sorry.
No, go ahead.
What I also like about pharmaphobic is, tell me a time when you are happy to be on a medication. Because I had somebody challenge me on using pharmaphobic, saying, well, you're saying that's a fear of medications. You're afraid of, and well, yeah, I am. Anytime I need a medication, there's a little bit of a fear associated with it, because, I don't feel good. This is bad. Is it going to get worse? I need a medication to fix it. I'm in pain. I need ibuprofen. Who likes to be in pain? And there is never a good situation where medications are involved. Now, can medications help you? Yes. But the reason why you need it, we're trying to help avoid that.
That brings me to another point, that when you and Janie came up with this word, it was, we were talking, getting ready for bed, and she just hit that. And I was like, wow, that's powerful. I mean, I'm like, yo, it hit.
Mm-hmm.
But something is, that I believe in, like, gut feelings and gut reactions. And, when you get more in tune with yourself, the gut is a really strong thing. People that have been in dangerous situations, i.e. veterans, that sort of people, where you have a gut feeling that something's not right, and boom, 2 seconds later, it's a shit show. You see people get told that they have to be put on medication, and their gut reaction is, I don't want to take that. They don't know what it is. They don't know what it entails. But 9 out of 10, some people are like, just give me the pill. And those people, we really need to reach out to them, because they need more help than most to realize that they have more options other than just going on the medication. But 9 out of 10 people get told that they need to be put on, I don't know, a statin, whatever, blood pressure medication. Their initial gut reaction is, I don't want to do that. I don't want to take a pill.
And then what happens if they say, well, I don't want to be on that pill? Okay. Now you have a medical provider who's not educated in lifestyle interventions, and a patient says they don't want to be on a pill. So what guidance does the patient get if no pill?
To avoid being on the pill.
Right? So in the instance of blood pressure, eat less salt, exercise more. Okay. Let me know how that works out. Because, and I've seen this in my own experience, where they don't ask a patient what they're eating, so the patient stops adding salt to their diet, but nobody told them that the deli sandwich and can of soup they're having every single day for lunch contains an enormous amount of sodium, and their blood pressure's still high, which we can go down the rabbit hole at another point of sodium's not the cause of high blood pressure, but anyway.
Oh, and you don't get me started on that lining in the can. Oh, hey. Let me put the tinfoil hat away for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, let's carry on with this conversation. But
yeah.
You'll find out as you join us in this journey, like, listen, I keep that foil on me, okay? I am very loyal to the foil. So it's default setting. Like, I immediately want to unveil the conspiracy and things, but I try to be reasonable, because the goal here is to be helpful, okay?
Yes.
And a lot of people are not ready for that deep dive into what we would call the conspiracy theory realm, or the realist realm, as I like to call it. Okay, we want to help. So go what you were saying. I digress what I was saying.
No, I was done with that thought.
No.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, going back to that gut reaction of like, I don't want to take that. Where does that come from? You know what I mean? Like, where does that come from? I'm open to having that conversation. Why don't you want to take that if these things are so great? Why are you having that gut reaction to it immediately? And this is not people that are like us that are a little bit more informed. This is regular, everyday people, So we're here to tell you, hey, how about we do everything in our power to treat health like what it is, which is the most valuable thing that any of us will own. Okay, that's where we're coming at this. And that's an active pursuit. Janie will say it all the time. What do you say?
There's no such thing as passive wellness.
Yeah. This is an active pursuit and you're constantly working on it. And I don't think we're coming at you as these authority figures. We know everything there is to know about health. That's definitely not, because we're learning things every day where we're like, oh my God, we've been doing this and that's actually not a good thing.
It's a lot of trial and error.
A lot of trial and error. And people don't, I tell that to my clients a lot when they start working out or they start trying to, figure out healthy eating. I'm like, listen, there's going to be some trial and error because you got to like figure out your schedule. You got to figure out when to go grocery shop. You got to figure out if this food tastes good that way or not. And there's going to be trial and error. I mean, I've cooked stuff. Little anecdote. I got into like micronutrient. I was geeking out on micronutrients for a while there. And I'm like, I need to eat this because it's got magnesium. I need to eat this because it's got phosphorus. I need to eat this and I was making concoctions so that I could get all my micronutrients in my meals. And I made this thing that was like ground turkey with cabbage and eggs for breakfast.
Was before me, thankfully.
Yeah, it was terrible. I mean, I was like forcing that thing down. It was so bad. But that's the whole point there, trial and error. I mean, like, hey, those things don't go together, okay? And getting into the micronutrient of things like that, I was getting ahead of myself there. Yeah. So I want you to it's a journey. We're learning, and maybe we know a little bit more than some people. So we want to bring you along in this. As we learn, we want to pass on to you. Yep. I think that's something that is worth saying.
Yeah. And in the efforts for us to continually learn, we're going to have guests on here who can provide different viewpoints. All of them are, share our interest in improving baseline health, making health a priority, but from different avenues, which I'm excited to learn from.
Yeah, and that's something too, like Janie and I both share like it's a default setting. It's a natural setting of just like we're curious and we like learning. She doesn't know what something is. Again, funny story. My dad, the first time I brought her home to Puerto Rico, first he noticed that she would ask questions, and then if she didn't know the answer or somebody told, she would immediately pull up her phone and like Google it. My dad's like, that's a really good trait. So that's the way she is. And I'm the same way. Like, I want to know. I'm curious. I like learning. Like, I just approach this thing as, if you stop learning, then you might as well jump in the grave at some point. So.
Yeah. And I hope we inspire other people to be like that. Maybe not to the extent that we are. We get that. But it's always, I think it's a great value, or it's a great trait to be curious. Because you just open up so much more. And one thing I have realized, and it's so thankful that, you and I do share this and that we're on this journey together, because sometimes it's very daunting, okay? When you start to uncover the pitfalls, how things seem to be stacked against you in some ways, and it is challenging. And then anytime you make a transition from what you're originally doing, transitions are always hard. But we have each other to work through this. So we're hoping that we can provide that support for other people to help navigate through this and maybe put a little bit of humor and lightness to it as well.
Yeah, it's a serious topic. And, the way I look at it, it's definitely a daunting topic. You said seems to be stacked against you. I say most definitely stacked against you. There's a construct there because Healthy people are not profitable by any means. What are you going to sell me? Eggs and steak?
Oh, they're
You know?
making money off your eggs right now.
Oh, they're making money off the eggs for show. But, and why are eggs kind of short? But whatever. I'm going to leave it alone. What do you sell me? Protein powder and gym memberships? Like, you make more money if people are sick. That's that period, point blank, the end.
Correct.
You start looking at what it costs to pay for chemotherapy. You start looking at what it costs to be on GLPs or anything like that. Insulin, all these things are expensive. And that's a lifetime sentence when people fall into these constructs where they need medications on medications on medications. And people make a lot of money off of that. You think that they're incentivized to solve an issue and get you off of that? They stop making money. Why would I bite into my $1 trillion profits? But regardless, back to curiosity. Listen, we want to have these conversations with other people that approach the health topic from other angles, like health insurance, any other doctors like surgeons and that sort of thing. I think that would be interesting. People that work in the VA, definitely a topic that is near and dear to me as a veteran. That what's up with the VA? Why is it so interesting, to say the least? And it's a constantly evolving thing. I think we should kind of talk about who we're trying to reach too, because people might be like, well, is this conversation for me?
I think we're trying to reach people who are ready to either they are ready, put their health first, or have a feeling that something needs to change.
I call them the day zeros. Day zeros. Yeah. Like you've never done anything for your health. You've never really thought about it, but
right,
that you got this feeling that you're like, again, back to the gut feeling where you're like, something needs to change.
And this is where a lot of people struggle because it's that first step. How do you take it? Where do you take it? Because even with the knowledge that we do have, which I'm not saying we know everything, but with what we have, it is confusing out there.
Yeah, I think that's something that you and I do really well too, because we're like, we can ask questions and then meet people where they're at. Like, is this person ready for me to talk to them about seed oils? Or is this person at hey, this is a protein, which I've had these conversations. Yeah. This is a carb. This is a fat. Do you want to put these together to make a meal? Like, and that's what matters. We want to be very simple. We want to leave the gimmicks out of it. And we want to be very sustainable is the word, meaning whatever advice, because that's all we do, we give advice. Whatever advice Janie and I give you, I think the focus is, can you do this for the rest of your life? That's how we want to approach this. Yeah. I don't want to tell you anything that you can only sustain for a month and then you're off the wagon, because a lot of people struggle with that. They start to take care of themselves and then they pick things that they can't sustain and then they fall off the wagon, and it becomes this process where they're constantly starting, but they're never seeing it through. Yeah. So we want to avoid that. That's something, the day zeros people, you need to change something and you want to know how. Yeah. We're definitely want to include you in this conversation.
Yeah. So I think the key people we're looking for are people who are ready. Because if you're not ready, then it's like people who smoke. If they're not ready to quit, then I'm not going to counsel you for 10 minutes
Can't
on why
save
you
people
should.
who don't want to save themselves. Yes.
Yeah.
The other people that I'm really interested in reaching is people that are already doing something.
Yes.
But because this, I think of health as a sliding scale. You have I still eat everything from a drive-through window. I take 1,000 steps a day. I've never seen the parking lot of a gym type people. And then on this side, you have people that everything they do keeps, is with health in mind. I don't know, they're cold plunging and putting 10,000 red lights on them and all this other stuff. So we want to slide the scale. Basically, you don't have to be perfect, but you want to move this thing closer towards hey, I'm healthy 90% of the time, to say,
Well, yeah. And I think that a lot of people think that they have to go from 0 to 100.
Yes, that's another one.
The middle ground is a great place to live, because sometimes you're going to be more health forward because things are going great. And then sometimes you have a crap year or a month, and, you prioritizing your health has to not be as regimented because other things are going on. But I was just talking with a patient about this. You can't abandon your self-care in times of stress. It changes, it may lessen, it looks different. But if you abandon it, then you tend to be worse off. And then that's where people yo-yo. They go in, fall out. You go in, fall out.
Yeah, I think that's something, how looking at the name of our company, which is Achieve the Lifestyle, why that resonated with me when we were coming up with the name, because it was what needs to happen for people to maintain the habit? Because we know if you want to get healthy, this is a consistent effort open-endedly. Okay. We're not doing this for a month. I'm just going to focus on dropping 30 pounds to fit in the dress, and then I'm going to stop. No, that's not going to get you healthy. So we need to be like, hey, you need to go to the gym however many times a week. You need to get your steps in. You need to eat the right food, constantly, consistently choose the better options in food. You need to get your buns to bed, all this stuff to actually get your health and get the result that you want, whether it's to look a certain way, feel a certain way, be able to perform a certain way. So it came down to what needs to happen. What do people that do this well all the time, and they can do certain things and they look a certain way and they have a certain level of health, what's the difference between them and people that can never get there? And it's a lifestyle that is centered around making health a priority. Again, going back to, it's the most valuable thing you own. You literally have a Ferrari in your hands, and you're treating it like like a golf cart.
A Prius.
Don't hate on the Prius now. Don't hate on the Prius. I don't have a Prius. I drive a Prius, guys.
Yeah.
I'm probably the only Puerto Rican that drives a Prius. But it's not a regular Prius. It's a G-Pri. It's a gangsta Prius, okay? So don't make fun of my car.
Okay.
Okay, but anyway, it's that. It's what it comes down to. You make this a lifestyle. And when you make that click, when you achieve the lifestyle, if you will, that's when all these results come your way, flooding in, because you are consistently doing the stuff that's required to get healthier.
Right? Yeah.
Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So going back to it, we want to reach people that are already doing something, but they're not necessarily seeing the results they want, or they can do better. Like, let's say, hey, I go to the gym 6 times a week, which is a lot if you ask me, but I go to the gym 6 times a week, but my body composition isn't ideal. Why? Well, are you drinking every weekend in excess? Are you not making the right food choices? Or, hey, I'm kind of making these right food choices, but I don't know this and that. Hey, how can we refine that?
Or, and I see this a lot with women, myself included in the past, you're going to the gym 6 times a week on top of a job that's really stressful, that you're commuting an hour each way. And then, plus or minus you have kids, plus or minus you have, somebody else to take care of, because, generally women are going to be more of the caretakers. Why am I not seeing the results, even though I'm doing the stuff I need to be doing? I'm eating at a caloric deficit.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's like, whoa,
it's too much.
We need to peel it back.
Yep.
You're not doing anything wrong, but could we take what you're doing to make it more sustainable for you, take away stress some places so that you see the results you want, you feel good, and you don't have to run yourself into the ground every day.
Yeah. And that's a lifestyle management piece right there.
Yes.
And I can speak to myself. You just gave your example. Like, hey, I am walking around with an 8-pack looking awesome. But
that is when we met.
Yeah, that is when we met. That's why we're here, guys. I had an 8-pack. She just loved the way I looked. She just saw me like, damn, he's so hot. And then she told me, you're going out with me because you absolutely have. Anyway. But you're walking around with an 8-pack and you go get blood work and they tell you you're pre-diabetic.
Yep.
Why? Your boy was not sleeping. I was eating intermittently because my day was crazy, and I would eat in the morning, but I would just go and train like a madman, constant high intensity type stuff, jujitsu, put it all together. And the more I do of it, the better. And then, going to bed really late and pigging out on something, drinking on the weekends, partying like my life depended on it. Go get a blood work. And it's like, oh, you're pre-diabetic.
Right.
But me, pre-diabetic with everything I do, and that's like I was partially bought into the whole health and fitness thing. I wasn't really. You start learning like, hey, there's other things that are required other than what I'm seeing in the mirror.
Yeah.
But these are the people we want to talk to.
Yeah.
So.
And also we hope to help provide education and help people who are parents, because then, we're not just seeing only parents, but whether you're a parent or not, if you change your life, you're going to influence those around you. But if you're a parent and you adopt a healthier lifestyle, that trickles down to your children. And now, and I tell this to my patients, if you improve your lifestyle, your children see that, they reflect that. Now I'm not having the same conversation I'm having with you with your child in 20 years.
Man. Oh, man.
And that can come off a little strong to some people, but it hits them and it makes them realize, because a lot of people want to take better care of others than themselves.
I really, that's probably going to be a future episode, because we really could beat that problem up. Trends.
And full disclosure, Dan and I do not have children. We've received some feedback that we should not speak on this because we do not. But I've worked in, like I said, family practice. I see patients birth to death. I see the effects that parents have on their children. And when they bring in a child to me who is overweight, the child is not the one going to the grocery store. The child is not the one preparing food or putting the food in their lunchbox. It is the parent. So yes, I do think that we are qualified to speak to people on how they can influence others, even if that includes their children.
This is a whole conversation that we should probably do on a future episode, because what we're seeing out there, the trend, okay, we talk about, more and more people getting type 2 diabetes, more and more people with autoimmune disorders, more and more people with gastric issues.
And younger and younger.
They're younger and younger and younger. Like, I just had this conversation with one of the groups that I train. Like, I work with teen athletes a lot. And I've been telling Janie for a couple of years that I'm getting more and more athletes that don't look like athletes. And not to say like, oh, you got to look a certain way to be able. No. I'm talking about young teenagers or preteens that are fairly overweight and not just that like, oh, he's got the baby fat on him. No, it's more like, hey, these kids there's something happening here, nutrition and activity wise, that these kids, even though they're the athletes, they're carrying around some weight that they probably shouldn't be carrying at that age. Moreover, I'm also getting the conversation like I had the other day of an 11-year-old who's already been diagnosed as pre-diabetic. This is wild, y'all. This is crazy. So the health issues that you would see in a 40-year-old man 20 years ago, we're starting to see them in 15-year-olds.
Yeah.
Something's wrong. Something's very wrong. And we need
foreshadowing for future episodes.
Oh, of course.
Seed oils.
Yeah, I mean, but there's a lot there. We could talk about the effects of technology and what's happening with the kids that are on screens all the time. We can talk about how we've become way more sedentary than any freaking living thing is ever meant to be, other than a plant.
Yeah, and sedentary is in the sense of going to the gym for 1 hour a day and then sitting the rest of the day does not count you as active. You are sedentary.
You see, going back to the people that are doing some stuff already, but they're missing the mark. It's like, hey, I go to the gym, I bust my ass in the gym, but then you are sitting for the rest of the day and you don't go out and walk, you don't get outside and all these other things. So you're working on your health, but your effort is not giving you the returns that you could have if you modified certain things. But that thing with the kids, that's a powerful conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, and I feel like that'll press a lot of buttons, but it's like, listen, we're looking at a problem with a solution mindset. We're not trying to just point fingers and be like, well, you're messing this up and you're messing this up. It's more like, we need to solve this and we need to talk about all the uncomfortable things that are going down, because you can already see where this is headed. If you kind of read into what's happening with healthcare insurance, it's going through the roof. Why? Because so many people need medical attention all the time. Okay? And if you're whatever side of the aisle you're on, if you're the type of person that believes that universal healthcare should become a thing, wouldn't it make sense to have a healthier population so that we're not overwhelming the medical system with people that need to go see the doctor every week because they're not doing what they have to do to be healthier? Wouldn't it be more responsible, better, make more sense if people didn't need to see the doctor as much because they are being proactive in their health?
Yeah.
That makes sense? And if you're not, and we keep this thing private, then do we want to be paying $1,000 a month and making healthcare something so crazy unaffordable because doctors are filled top to bottom with people they need to see, and 9 out of 10 people that walk into a primary care office are dealing with something that could have been avoidable through lifestyle changes?
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like this thing needs to get addressed. What we are headed for is a collapse of the medical system. I'm not trying to exaggerate it. Look at the premiums for healthcare insurance these days. Look at how many people need to go to the doctor all the time. Look at how many doctors you have available. Look at how many hours doctors need to put in. Janie, you could speak to this, how many patients you have to see in a day to, when you're, and how much time you can spend with them,
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a lot and not a lot of time.
Exactly. And then, and look at an increasing population that's dealing with these chronic illnesses. The numbers aren't going down,
Right.
guys. They keep going up.
And I think that's important to speak on that medical providers, doctors, PAs, nurse practitioners are included in the U.S. population of generally unhealthy. And so we have to take a step back and think about the impact that has on people. Because not only are, physicians, NPs, PAs having to see an enormous amount of people in a short amount of time, leading to burnout. That word is heavily overused, but it is a thing. So burnout and suicide rate among healthcare providers is very high, higher than the general population. But if a practitioner is generally unhealthy themselves and a patient comes in with a complaint of, I need to lose weight, and they are unhealthy and they're overweight themselves, do you think they're going to say, yeah, you do need to lose weight? That's going to be a very uncomfortable conversation. Or if this provider, they're struggling with their mood because they don't get regular exercise, they're not eating a nutritious diet, they're not sleeping well, they're stressed out because of work, so they take Prozac or Lexapro, and a patient comes in and says, hey, my mood's not great. What do you think that provider is going to educate them on? The effects of a medication helping, or that they can do lifestyle things to help improve their mood? So I am very passionate about, if we educate providers or even higher up, the CEOs of healthcare, of like hospitals or healthcare practices, or the powers that be, if they knew more about baseline health, if they slept better, if they ate better, if they were educated in exercise, would they then instill protocols differently? Would they, if they're the providers, would they talk to their patients differently? Would a healthier provider result in a healthier patient? I think it would.
Oh, no doubt. I agree.
And so if that goes to the parents and the kids, if the people who are educating you on your health, determining your health, navigating through your health, which a lot of people, it is their primary care provider, if they themselves are unhealthy and reliant upon pharmaceutical medications, what are they going to encourage their patient to do and be?
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge problem.
And a lot of these people, they're walking around with a hammer. That's all they got.
Yeah.
And when you got a hammer, everything looks like a nail,
And when I was working in primary care, I still am, but in a little bit different setting, you have a financial incentive to put somebody on a medication because you get rewarded if lab values are a certain, if LDL is down, if A1Cs are down, if things are down, the healthcare company is like, a health insurance company is, whoa, you saved us money because you got all these values down. How am I going to get those values down when I have a 10 to 15 minute visit for 20 patients? Am I going to educate every single one of them about lifestyle and do the acute and close follow-up that's needed with that? Or am I going to put them on a medication, send them on their way, their lab value goes down, but their quality of life is still shit?
What about giving people a heads up? Let's talk about this for a second, because it's fine. It's okay. It's okay that it's that way. Giving people a heads up on like, hey, you're trending in this general direction. I can tell you by your blood work right now. You should probably start doing something right now. Or keeping that under wraps until they're actually...
That bothers me.
So
this is a very real thing that happened. A few months ago, I sent an email to the powers that be at the practice that I was at that our lab values of a lab that we commonly used do not mark abnormal until an A1C, which is a 3-month average blood sugar, is 6.5. At 6.5, you have diabetes. At 5.7, that's the marker for prediabetes. And so I proposed, why don't we make the lab value abnormal at 5.7? So that gives the provider, when they have 50 labs to review, their attention goes right to that. That's abnormal. Patients can now see their labs before they're even reviewed by a provider. It's red. That's abnormal. Should I ask my provider about that?
You could get proactive about something. Oh, because being proactive, that tends to work about stuff. Yeah. Okay.
And so it's, as it stands, it's not. It's not red. It is just normal color, a color for normal. And so I propose that we change it. That person took it to the board for whatever, right? Because you have to have a board for everything. And they said, no, we will not change it because that will cause too much work for the providers. Okay. Too much work for the provider is educating a patient that their labs are trending to normal. Towards abnormal, excuse me. Thank you. It's too much work for a provider to give a patient time to change their lifestyle to prevent damage to their body and a disease. But it's not too much work for a provider to have that crossover to diabetes, prescribe a medication, deal with side effects. Now a person needs to be seen every 3 months or 6 months. Now they have to have, now you have a diagnosis of diabetes, automatic pneumonia vaccine, annual flu shot, blood work and urine every 3 to 6 months. You need to see a podiatrist. Now you need to see an ophthalmologist. Oh shit, this medication gave you side effects. Now I need to mitigate those side effects with potentially another medication or make a medication change. That medication's not covered by your insurance. So now I need to do a prior authorization or find something else. Well, now the patient has to pay out of pocket because they couldn't get the prior authorization, but they need the med.
You know what I'm hearing?
What?
Ka-ching.
Yeah.
Ka-ching.
And so I was told that's too much work for providers. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, because I couldn't make a change. I'm a PA. I didn't go to medical school, so what do I know?
Which is crazy to think that, because everything you just mentioned to take care of somebody with diabetes sounds like a whole lot of work, when you could have just had a conversation up front and hopefully that person pointed that person towards resources to change.
Providers not
done. No, they're not educated.
They're not educated in nutrition or exercise. So I feel like I can speak on this because in addition to my PA license and education, I sought out a nutrition certification. I am in the process of getting a strength coach for people who have chronic diseases certification. So I'm trying to expand my education to better help my patients.
And you are doing that unilaterally. Nobody's making you do it. There's no construct in the medical education system that points you in that general direction. This is this is you being curious and teaching yourself.
Granted, I have a great support of like-minded providers who do this as well. So it's not just
doubt. But what I'm trying to point out to the fact is that nobody in the mainstream construct is pushing people in this direction or supporting or suggesting that people go in this direction. It's something that you sought out by yourself. There's nothing in the mainstream construct that says, hey, this could be helpful. Yeah. This could make you a better provider. Right. And it's the same thing with strength coaches and with personal trainers. This is a constantly evolving thing. You learn a little bit about training and then you go start training people. And if you're not constantly refining your methods and constantly going to continuing education and constantly reading and listening to other trainers and maybe trying other programs, then eventually you get to the point where you suck as a trainer. Yes. Big time. You know what I mean? Because these are fields that are constantly evolving. Like if you're an accountant or something like that and you work with, I don't know, QuickBooks or whatever, for the most part, you're going to do the same thing throughout the span of your career. Maybe you use a different platform and you evolve a little bit. But what I want to say is that there are jobs where when you learn something, that's what you're doing for the rest of the time. But there are jobs like healthcare where it's a constantly evolving thing and you have to keep your ear to the ground. And if you're not a curious person, you're going to miss the mark at some point. Whereas you might be good now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, you're not going to be good. Same thing with training. I think that's what makes me attracted me to this thing to
Yeah.
begin with. Yeah, and you follow that spirit very much.
Yeah.
I
And it came full circle just yesterday with that patient who I saw who 2021 his lab value was 5.8 prediabetes. Not a diagnosis entered into his chart, no education given. I intercepted his blood work to help out another provider and saw his blood sugar was elevated, added on an A1C, which is now 7.2.
Woo.
So he has officially diabetes. And it goes back to what we started with this. He was never made aware that he was headed down the path to diabetes for him to make change. Now, I'm not saying it's not his fault. He made some unhealthy choices along the way, but as healthcare providers, we didn't do our best to guide him with the knowledge we had readily available, because a simple thing is I know that I can just imagine that the provider who got that value in 2021 had a lot of work. That lab was marked normal. Hey, your blood work's normal.
Man, there's a couple things here. One, I don't think that people out there in the mainstream understand just how complicated and unfortunate a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes is, because there's so many pharmaceuticals to deal with it and help you cope that it kind of downplays the severity of the disease. You know, we're looking at neuropathy, we're looking at losing your eyesight, possible amputations in the future, cognitive decline, okay? This is something for a later episode, but talking about type 3 diabetes, if you will, the relationship between elevated blood glucose for a chronic amount of time and dementia, okay? So it's not just I have diabetes, I need to go on insulin and I'll be fine. No, it's like there's a whole slew of things that you can be dealing with. And then Janie just went down through the whole battery of medical procedures that you're going to have to constantly be a part of to manage that disease. And I think it's people, because of the over-reliance on pharmaceuticals, they downplay how unfortunate and how serious a diagnosis of diabetes is. Going back to the trends, I had a conversation with somebody I love, a couple of months ago from my family, a family member, and we are, he's telling me about these symptoms. He's falling asleep all the time and all this. He's gained some weight and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm like, hey, when's the last time you got blood work? He comes out with the blood work and he's reading me his last blood work. But I'm like, what did the one before that say? And the one before that say?
Yeah.
And he's pointing to these other numbers like cholesterol, like, oh, this is fine. They told me my cholesterol was fine. Like, nah, let me see that A1C. What's that looking like? And then when he pulls out all the tests, then we see, hey, we're at a 5 point something, 5.7. And he's going up. He's at a 5.9 when we're having the conversation. And I'm like, yo, you're pre-diabetic. And you've trended in that direction over the past 3 tests, and your doctor didn't tell you a word. He's just looking at your cholesterol. You're doing great. Get out of here. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We're not going to, it's fine. It's fine. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And here we are, you're dealing with symptoms of pre-diabetes where you're falling asleep at the wheel.
Yeah.
Literally falling asleep driving and falling asleep in the middle of the day because your blood sugar is elevated. And then we start unraveling, like, what did you change? Well, I started drinking Coke again. I'm like, why are you, first of all, y'all, why are we drinking Coke? Like, whatever, I'm gonna leave it alone.
Yeah.
But what if you stop drinking Coke, why did you bring it back as a habit? Come on now. And then, the morning coffee, this is family members, so we're talking about Puerto Rican coffee here. You got to put sugar in that stuff. It's got to make it nice and sweet. It's got to be fruit. Even if you're having the black espresso, you got to put the sugar in there. And then he started adding oat milk to the thing. And I'm like, Dad, pull out that oat milk. Hey, cat's out of the bag. It's my dad.
Yeah.
I'm like, so whenever he sees this, he'll be like, what are you? I'm like, Dad, I'm calling you out. Pull out that oat milk. Literally right now, pull the oat milk out of the refrigerator. And he turn it around, because people don't do this enough. Read those freaking ingredients. First of all, we don't know what half the stuff in there is, but go through the ingredients.
Yeah.
Then he sees the added sugars.
Yeah.
I'm like, so you're putting sugar in your coffee and you're dropping the oat milk on top of it.
And so that speaks to what we want to bring awareness to as well. There's a lot of things that we, we have all the intentions of this is healthy, right? Oat milk is healthy because you're inundated with information about. I understand that, but I'm just saying, people, it's hard when you get all this information.
It's been
right?
marketed as a super healthy, yeah.
And so that's what we hope to provide: some facts and science and applicable ways that you can improve your health in a consistent manner for the remainder of your life that makes sense to you, and hope to do it in a fun way to leave you, inspired, excited, curious, laughing, or,
Yeah. So, to wrap this conversation up, I think sense of humor is important.
Mm-hmm.
Curiosity is important. When you see the gargantuan problem that the health of the country is, because it really is a very big, complicated thing. Where, we got to talk about how we're farming. We got to talk about the food industry. We got to talk about Big Pharma. We got to talk about marketing dollars and research dollars and how they're distributed and controlled by Big Pharma. We got to talk about their influence, the lobby, what politicians are in their pocket. We got to talk about all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How doctors are educated, who controls what goes into the curriculum at medical schools. So it's a huge problem. But sense of humor,
mm-hmm.
curiosity,
mm-hmm.
and understanding that there is a solution. You just got to be crazy enough to want to find it.
Yes.
And that's where we come in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So follow us at Achieve the Lifestyle on Instagram. And please, if you have any feedback, questions, comments, you want to work with us, we do have a website, achievethelifestyle.com, or you can email us at info@achievethelifestyle.com.
Yeah. And that is a show, guys.
Thank
Join us
you.
on the next one. Thanks for listening to the PharmaPhobic podcast. If you found this conversation interesting, which I know you did, make sure to follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And also make sure to check us out on Instagram at Achieve the Lifestyle. And if you're interested in pursuing a stronger, healthier, more capable version of yourself, check out our website at achievethelifestyle.com.
The PharmaPhobic podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are those of the hosts and guests and do not constitute medical, legal, or professional advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider before making any medical or wellness decisions. While we discuss pharmaceutical, holistic, and alternative health topics, our content is not a substitute for professional medical guidance.